Yeah, my website or my newsletter?
Newsletter, and what
Yeah,
does it
because
mean?
nobody goes to my website. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
everybody gets the newsletter.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? It's a book that I wrote.
Really?
Yes, yes. It's a book of it's a collection of poetry that I wrote in the first 10 years that I lived in Slovakia about my experiences in Slovakia. There are about 200 poems, and they are on a variety of subjects from uh, personal relationships to actually they're basically all about personal relationships. They're about my new experiences in a new culture, trying to understand the new culture, trying to compare the new culture to the old culture, and about the people that I met. It was written. It was written over the first 10 years that I was in Slovakia. So, when I published it about 6 years ago, and so everything was up to that point that I wrote, and I first I self-published it in a real paper form, and then this year I republished it online and put it on Amazon. Um, it is possible to buy it on if you would like the digital copy,
No, paper.
the paper copy. Okay, you don't have to buy the paper copy. I will give you a copy of the paper copy. And the reason for this is that the version that's online is an updated version. It's edited. It's edited to be better. Be-
When somebody is the best.
I know it's hard to imagine.
Yes.
I know, I know, but it is. Uh, I think we can make everything better. That doesn't. Nothing perfect exists anywhere. So yeah. And when I published it the first time, I published it very quickly. I was under a lot of stress and pressure to get it published, and there were some. There were a few mistakes in the book, and I wanted to publish it again without the mistakes. I wanted to create a better version, and so after procrastination for 6 years, I finally republished it this year, and I'm happy with the digital version that's online. It's better than the physical copy. The content is better because I had to edit a few of the poems, and some of the subjects and some of the language was. Some people found it offensive, said they didn't like it, and so I removed some of that hardcore content from the version that I published online to make it easier to read. So there were a lot of those kinds of edits to make uh, to make it softer on the reader. The first published version was, I think, a little bit aggressive. Some of the poems were about love, and some of the poems were about the opposite of love. And so when people like my mother read it, she said that she was a little bit offended by some of the language that was in it. And she said it made it difficult for her to read. So I accepted that. And when I published it online, I edited those parts out of it. So, um, so in my opinion, from my perspective, the two versions are very different. But from the outside looking in, it looks like they're basically the same. But to me, they're not. That they're very different. yeah, I don't know, creatures. I want to say they're very different creatures because I think that writing, it's never perfect. It's never finished. You can always play with it a little bit. You can experiment with it a little bit, and it's interesting looking back because I think we talked about this before that I think we forget a lot of things naturally. And the poems were a way to record events and record feelings about events. And very often to write down what I couldn't say to people. And so it's basically a, a record over 10 years of unspoken conversations, things that I wanted to say to people, but I couldn't say to them. And it's very interesting for me to go back and read these things again. Some of them I think, yeah, I remember that. Some of them I think, I'm not sure what I was thinking when I was thinking. And some of them, now I understand what I was writing. I didn't understand what I was writing because a lot of the writing was automatic. I think for a lot of writers, you write, but you don't fully understand what you're writing. And you look back on it years later and you begin to understand what you were trying to express. And so for some of the poems, when I look back on it now, it's now I understand. Now I'm a bit older and I can look back, I can see what I was trying to express at that point in
Like a
time.
diary.
Yeah, it functions. It
But the
functions.
form was special. Poems is not so often used in this situation.
Yeah, it's little moments. Like there's a poem that I wrote when I was on a bus in London visiting a friend, and I would not remember the trip to London and the visit if I didn't write the poem. The poem is like a like an anchor in my mind to hold the memory there. And so when I read the poem, it takes me back to that event in my life that otherwise I would not think about. And there are also there's a few experiments with language because I was beginning to study etymology and look at words and break the words down and cut them up and play with them. There's theatrical play with language. There's play with the speed and the tone of lines. There's play with the structure. There's play with things that people don't even think about, which is you can have three lines, and if you read the first two lines together and then the third line, there's one meaning. But if you read the first line and then the second two lines together, there's a completely different meaning. But I imagine that nobody is ever going to really think about it like that. But when I read the poems, it's there. Depending upon which information you connect, the whole meaning can change. There's factual situations. There's feelings. Yeah, yeah. Um, there's lots of little things that I would. Everything means something to me in it. When you look at it from the outside, it looks just like words collected together, but each thing for me is a very powerful memory. Um, there's one poem called "The Village Under the Castle," and it's all about Spisky Podradie. But nobody knows that except me. Is that I went there one day with some friends and there was some traditional music and I stayed with this family and talked to some old people who were there and had a really nice experience. And so uh, the poem is all about Spisky Podradie, but it's not written there that it's Spisky Podradie. It's just called the village under the castle because Spisky Podradie is a tiny little village under a giant castle. So um, so for me, it's interesting as well because now we have the digital age. Almost everything is recorded. You go back and look at your emails, and you can check pictures on Facebook and Instagram, and I was looking back at the some videos that I made 5 or 6 years ago because well, I make little videos on education. So I now have about 650 videos on education that I have made. And so I was looking back at what I did like 3, 4 years ago. I was like, wow, I did that. If I didn't have that information, I wouldn't see the process of things which would otherwise be lost. And I think it's crazy. I don't know if I told you this, but I interviewed my mother a few years ago, and I recorded the interview, and I put the interview on my YouTube channel, not for other people, but for me because I know where it is, and if it's in your computer, what happens? It gets lost, right? It gets lost or deleted, or you need a new computer, and what to do with the old information. If you put it online, it will stay there. So I made this interview with my mother about her life, and I put it online. So it's there. The story of my mother's life is there for anyone, if anyone ever wants it, if anyone in my family wants it, or if my kids want to know about their grandmother, her story is there. So I think it's really important to record things. And one of my friends, who is part of a business group that I work with, he noticed something that I didn't notice, which is I like to record information. Right? I like to record data and collect data and information and catalog it. I don't know why. It's just something that I do. I try to catalog and record everything. And so it's now visible to me that this is some kind of mission in my life, to catalog and record as many things as possible from my own experiences. So the poems are part of that. That was the first book. The second book will be published maybe in December this year if I get it. It's 99% finished. It's 99% finished. I will have the cover designs and everything for it. When do I write it? Well, here's the the new book is a book on education and society, and this is a book based on articles that I wrote. So already I have 7 articles that I wrote, and I am putting them together to write this book. And so most of the content I have already. I just need to have a logical order and flow to the material. And for the next book after that, everything is going to be done through audio. 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 So I have basically recorded the book already. It's just what I do is I talk through what it is that I want to express. And then I go back and just write down what I said and organize the thoughts. So it's not so it's a faster way of creation. When you write, it's usually a little bit slower, and so it has a more natural flow when you speak, or it should have, if your thoughts are logical. So a lot of people do this now. They speak a book, and then they themselves, or they get someone else to transcribe it, to write down everything that's there. So I will either transcribe it myself or get someone else to do it. And the book already exists; it's online, but it's on my YouTube channel. But I'm not going to tell you which part of my YouTube channel it is, because there's so many things there. And that's what I'm working on. And I have video series that I made on YouTube. Maybe each one has 20 or 30 parts. And I'm going to go back in 2 or 3 years. I'm going to go back and I'm going to take the series and I'm going to make a book out of it. Basically, what I'm doing now is recording the book that I'm going to write in 10 years. So in 10 years, I'm going to come back and look at the information and put it into logical order and create a book out of it. So I have a plan for everything that will happen. It just takes time. It just takes time. So but hopefully the most important thing for me now is the second book, because I think everybody can do something once, but to do something twice, to publish two books, I think is the next level. So for me, the important thing is to get to the next level, to get the second book published, and help yourself. And and I look forward to that, because that will be a real book that people can read with real content and real information uh, about language, about the world, about society, about linguistics, about etymology, about history, which I think will include a lot of information that people don't know. And so um, I have one big problem. My big problem is marketing. Yeah. So I have never really found a good market for what I produce. And maybe it's because I don't work hard enough at marketing. It's also because it's not that important to me, but it is important. I mean, we all need to advertise what we do. We all need to market in some way. And for me, the most important thing is to create, not to market. But if you have only creation and no marketing, then you have no market of people to sell to. Yeah, you have a product and nothing to do with it. Yeah, exactly. Put it on my shelf and I'll be happy with it. Exactly. Yeah. So um, that is that's something I have to solve in the future, I think. Not sure what the best way is to do that. I'm exploring and experimenting at the moment. But I have seen a lot of other people publish books, and I think that I can do something that is as good as what they do. I'm not sure if I can do something better, but I know I can do something that's at the same level. So, uh, that's interesting for me. As I progress with the second book, I will give you information about what is happening with it. And as I said, I have the last part of it to finish. Um, I will probably be here on Saturday and Sunday all day writing the last part of the book. Um, and then it will be done, and I will have a break, and I can go on to another project that I have. But it's very important for professional development. I want to present myself in a very professional way for the work that I do. And for some reason, when you write a book, people take you more seriously. It doesn't make much sense to me, but it's a level of respect that people get for doing something. And so I want to go to the next level. It just seems, and to get to the next level, you have to write a book about the topic that you are involved in professionally, which is teaching and education and language. So that if people, say, okay, we want to know something about this person, okay, here's the book. So that's my perspective on it, and that's my plan. And I think, final note, I think everyone has a book in them. Everyone's got a book inside of them, because that's what our experiences are. Our experiences of life are a story. It's our story. And there's no real reason why this story is more important or better than this story, because all the stories are different. So I think everyone has a book inside of them. But most people unfortunately don't get it out of themselves. It stays inside, and it's kind of sad because I think it would be nice, or I think it is nice later in life to reflect, to look back on life experiences and see what you learned and understand that what you learned, other people can also learn. There's a story of history that we stand on the shoulders of giants, that people who came before us created this beautiful world for us. And I feel personally that we need to give back to these people who came before us by giving something to the people who will come after us. We stand on their shoulders and we have experiences. So if we can take 30, 40, 50 years of experience, things that we learned, we can put them in a book and we can teach people what we learned in 50 years and they can learn it in 4 or 5 days by reading the book. That's a massive way to improve the quality of the world, to improve the quality of society, and a very simple way to do it as well. You don't need massive amounts of money. You don't need to write a new curriculum for the education systems. You don't need a new rule or law or tax code. You don't need a new piece of technology. All you need to do is go through your own experiences, select the things that are important for you, put them down in a logical way, and share that. And then I think there's something more permanent about life, about your life. Because what use is a life if you take everything with you when you die? What use are all those experiences if you take them with you when you die? It's almost selfish. It's almost selfish to have all these wonderful experiences in life and learn so much and not share it with the world. Keep it inside to yourself and die with it, and no one will ever know. It's almost selfish to do that. This is a great window into our perception of the world is our own history of experiences. And it's absolutely in no way necessary to focus on anything negative. In fact, learning something is kind of what we all do all the time, or at least it's sort of what we all should do. So I don't really think that there's anything negative about it, except for the fact that we might feel a little bit ashamed that we did something stupid at some point in time. But yes, I went out and got drunk and fell over and had to be carried home by my friends. It's true, it happened, right? So there are these things in life, but we definitely don't have to focus on anything that is negative within that. Yeah, there's this great term that's come into the culture in the last 2 or 3 years: haters. Never existed before. They're kind of people who didn't like you. We now have a name for them. They're called haters because the internet allows us to write really negative comments and run away and not suffer anything bad because of it. And I think that that people are either always going to be supportive or always going to be negative. It's just the way they are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oscar Wilde, all criticism is autobiography. Oscar Wilde, all criticism is autobiography. All criticism is autobiography. So And there's something else that I wrote down this morning about that. 1 second. Where did I write it? Yes. Not only is all criticism autobiography, but accusation is. So let's take a step back. The first thing that I said was criticism is autobiography, and the second thing is accusation is confession. These are two psychological truths. These are two of the foundational and fundamental psychological truths that we can't escape. The first is that criticism is autobiography. Everything that a person tells you is negative about you is negative from their own experiences. Everybody sees the world from their own perspective. Nobody really knows what another person is thinking all the time. So that's why criticism is autobiography. And accusation is confession. And this is extremely relevant, or pertinent, is another word. This is extremely pertinent at the moment if you follow the American presidential election. Because one of the candidates in the American presidential election spends all their time with accusation. This person. One of the candidates spends all their time with accusation. And accusation is confession. Yeah, this person is blaming this person for what this person is doing. Because all this person knows to talk about is their own experience. They can only see the world from their own perspective. And so when they think, they project themselves they project their own mind into the body of the other person and imagine something which is absolutely not true, which is this person is saying things for the same reason that this person is saying things, when they're not. Because both candidates are coming from quite different perspectives. And so, of course, this is not true 100% of the time, but 99% is enough. 95% is enough. I think that that we present the negative because we have similar negative experiences in our own history. And when we understand this, we understand why people don't progress or develop. They don't progress or develop because they built a wall around themselves of their own history and they can't even see the wall. And that's why I have spent the last 10 years of my life trying to break down the wall by recording all the data and all the information and being as precise as I can about my own history and my own experiences, so that I can analyze what I did, how I did it, why I did it, and try to understand the reasons for it, so that I can make improvements in my life.
Like to be
Naked,
naked.
naked. I think when we write books, it's quite similar to taking all our clothes off. It doesn't matter what the book is. It doesn't matter if it's a true story or a fantasy story. You know, we're getting what is inside outside. And so I think a writer always does that. The writer always has to live with this nakedness. You know, the great writers, you know, have ripped their heart out of their chest and put it on their sleeve and worn it there and said, "This is my heart." The Ralph Waldo Emerson or John Steinbeck, um, they do that. There's there's no difference between the great artist and the great work of art. They are the same thing. Each artist must become their art, as the singer becomes the song when the singer wants to create the great song. And so it's necessary to bleed, right? To bleed. When you cut yourself and the blood
Yes,
comes out,
such
yeah, to bleed. Bleed. To bleed. That's the verb. It is necessary to bleed as an artist. Yeah, you cannot disconnect the great artist from their work. You can't. You can't disconnect Picasso from his paintings. You can't disconnect Michelangelo from his work, or Leonardo da Vinci, because they become the same thing. You know, you can't disconnect Freddie Mercury from the songs of Queen. You can't. The music embodied him. It became real because they put, I guess we call it the soul. They put their soul into the music, uh, which is the nature of all great music. You know, the music that makes the hair on your arm stand up when you hear it is really, really powerful. And so, um, I think naturally to make tomorrow better, we have to understand what we did yesterday and what was good about it and what was bad about it. And that's just, you know, in the bigger picture, the same thing is in life. If I want to make the next 10 years of my life better, I have to look at the last 10 years and go, what worked, what didn't work, what did I do right, what did I do wrong, what mistakes did I make. Celebrate the successes, recognize the failures, which is just learning, and put all the information together to build something which is better. Um, Nothing is created which is perfect, and so that should hopefully make us feel more confident about doing these things. Now, some people are naturally private people. They're just naturally private. They're not going to share this information because it's not in their characters. And other people are the opposite. They have no problem sharing everything. It doesn't mean that one is good and one is bad. It doesn't mean that. It just means that people are different. Yeah, um, and so my whole my whole life has become self-analysis now. And the more I study what I do, the more I understand what other people do. It's really crazy. You know how they tell you the answers are inside you? It's like, well, what is this weird esoteric stuff, right? What do you mean the answers are inside me? I don't understand. But what it means is, for me, is that when you study yourself, you begin to understand other people more. And hopefully two things happen. Number one, you learn to forgive other people for being different, and number two, you learn to live in gratitude and acceptance of the fact that life is life, and there are things to enjoy, and there are things to be happy for. Um, Psychological studies show us the things that we think about in the first 5 minutes of the day create the success of the day. If the thoughts in the first 5 minutes of the day are negative, the day becomes negative. If the thoughts in the first 5 minutes of the day are positive, then the day becomes positive.
No, I'm positive after coffee.
Ah,
Till coffee, I'm negative, and after drinking coffee, I am absolutely positive.
that's exactly my experience as well. I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same. So I am not human until I until I'm a beast. Where's the kitchen? Coffee. So my whole family knows this. Right? But this is a great thing because this is recognition of necessity. I know that to frame my day in the right way, I know what I need at the beginning. Right? Some people need meditation, some people need exercise, some people need a shower. Yeah, great example. Some people need coffee, some people need tea, some people need milk, some people need cornflakes. Some Oh, do you have you have some kind of special routine in the morning or something that Are you thinking about what I think you're thinking about?
You understand, Sylvia, because you are thinking about the same thing.
Yes.
It's your mirror.
I have
Mr. Hendrey.
this is yes. Well, this is this is understanding our experiences, isn't
We are really good students. Careful what
Yeah, I just realized I have to be really careful now what I say, because it's all gonna come back.
Yes.
It's all gonna come back to me. Yes. Oh my God. So yeah, we know what we need to start our day in the right way. So coffee, and that creates the positive steps. Creates the positive steps. So it's necessary to know ourselves and to know what we need. Everybody needs something different. So there. But thank you for asking about the book. Yes. It has a strange title. You might have noticed the title is a bit strange.
Trees that became men.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that about? The trees that became men. One of the poems in the book has a line in the poem, and the line is the trees that became men. It's a line from one of the poems. I don't know why, but this line stayed in my head. Don't know why. No idea why. Could be any line from any poem, but that line was in the back of my head. I wanted something which was not clear, which was not obvious. I wanted something which was abstract a little bit. I wanted something which people, when people read it, they wouldn't know what it was. Because I'm strange, right? I now know from marketing, make everything very clear.
Does she read your books?
She has read. Oh yes, she has read it. Yeah, she has read it, and
It's absolutely normal when partner
yeah.
doesn't read.
Yeah,
this process to write it and so on, and it's enough, for example, for her.
yeah. It's also hard to read love poems that your partner wrote for somebody else.
Yes, yes,
That's that's kind of crazy. And I was talking to one of my teenage students yesterday about that topic, about there's a before everything started. There's always something before everything started. Um, and because I was talking to the student about the recording that I did with my mother, I learned some things about her past that I didn't know before. And this is why everyone should interview their parents. They really need to deeply interview their parents. There's a lot of before that nobody talks about. Because for children, your parents, if you have a normal family, were always together. Your parents were always together. All you know is that but your parents had a before, which very often they don't talk about. I think if they're open, they should talk about it. I think it's important, but very often people don't talk about what happened before. And I've heard people say, "Oh no, don't talk about that. Oh, you can't talk about that because that was, that was before, and you might offend someone." And you have to acknowledge there was something before. There was a life before. There were people before. There were experiences before. There were other relationships, which naturally didn't work. But I think that's a really important part of the process of understanding a person's own history, and that's part of what's in the book. There's a before I met my present partner. There's a whole section of poems there about other previous girlfriends that I had in our relationships.
Your next book.
Yeah. The title is again okay. The title is abstract, but underneath there's a subtitle which explains what it is this time, so I know what I'm doing. The title is The Language of Deceit. Deceit is also the noun is deception.
Uh-huh.
Deception.
Deceptive.
Deception, yeah, deception. Making people believe things which are not true. So the basic idea is how language, like everything, has two sides. You can use it to be really positive about your experiences, or you can use it to be really negative. And sort of if you focus on the positive, you become a more positive person. If you focus on the negative, you become a more negative person. It's a choice that people make. And so that's the title. The subtitle is How to Navigate the Systems that Surround Us. Navigate, to find your way through. How to navigate the systems that surround us, because there's information about social systems, there's information about language, there's information about education, and positives and negatives.
So in poems?
Oh no! It's going to be a real book. It's gonna be in. It's gonna have 7 chapters, and each chapter will focus on a different element. I think the first 3 are about education. The fourth is about language, and then 5, 6, and 7 are about society and different systems that exist within society. So the idea is to start with what people know and to try to take them somewhere new through the information. In the last one, the last article is a personal story about my father's car club. Yeah, and it's relating my father's car club to social groups, and
Old-timer club, yes?
yeah, and how social groups work and provide benefits and advantages for people who are members of those groups, and what happens if you're in the group and what happens if you're not in the group. and how that affects people's behavior. So it's trying to turn a personal experience into a learning experience to show how the world works. Back to the title, The Trees That Became Men. Here's a story for you. There's a story connected to this. Because it's stories that make things interesting. When people buy an Apple product, they don't buy the product, they buy the story. People never buy products, they always buy stories. One of the keys of marketing in the modern world. So look at any interview, right? What's an interview? It's just a person telling their story, or stories, if they have more than one, basically. So, the trees that became men. I always liked the line. It was in the back of my head all the time. And so when I chose the title for the book, this is the title. I don't know why, but this is the title. And I was in Scotland visiting some friends, and I don't know how. I think I sent some copies to my mother, and my mother gave some copies to her friends, and somehow one of my friends from school, way back 20 years ago, they got a copy of it. And I met them, and they said, "Oh, the title was really interesting. Did you take the title from the Bible?" I thought, you know, part of me wants to say, yes, of course, but that would not be true, so I can't say that. But I would like to say, oh yes, I took it from this section of the Bible. It's very profound and it has exactly this meaning, but that's not what I did at all. So I said, the Bible? This is in the Bible? And so my friend said, yeah, there's she said, when I read the title, and this is how what everybody sees is their own history, right? What you see is your own history all the time. She said, when I read it's okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. So we will continue the story, right? So, so I said, the Bible? This is in the Bible? And she said, yeah, when I read the title, I remembered the story of Jesus healing the blind man by spitting into his eyes. It's a story in the Bible. I don't know if he spits directly or he spits on his hand and touches the blind person's eyes, but and the blind man slowly begins to see. And the first thing that he sees, he thinks that they are trees. He sees these tall figures and he thinks, oh, I can see trees. But slowly the trees begin to move and he sees that the trees are actually men. Yeah, it's part of what the blind man, how the blind man describes being able to see after he's healed by Jesus. Yeah, and so she said, when I read the line, I thought, the trees that became men. It's that story from the Bible where Jesus heals the blind man so that the blind man can see. Oh yeah, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question because so much of history is lost. When I was a kid, when I was very young, 7, 8, 9, 10, I went to church school. I went to Sunday school. It is possible that I read that line or read that part of the story when I was very young. I don't know. It's also possible that it's just a wild, random connection. But yeah, subconscious. Perhaps perhaps it was in my subconscious, just waiting to come out at some point in time. I really don't know, but when my friend told me this, I went back to the Bible and I started reading those pages, and now in the new version of the book, part of the introduction is that passage from the Bible. I use part of that passage in the introduction because it's such a powerful passage from the Bible. And the more I think about it, the more sense it makes. The blind man starting to see, that's the whole point of the writing. Is that I don't know what is there, but I'm experimenting and looking to see what I can find. And it was a bit of a shock for me. And it's amazing how I had no idea what it really meant. I just knew that it was important. And somebody else, somewhere else, knew exactly what it was. I just think I think that that's incredible. If you want a written copy, one of the older versions, they're here, but it's much. It's not as good as the newer version, I can tell you that. I would like to highlight some of the happier sections of the book, some of the happier poems. So, page 9, I'm going to go through some of the lighter ideas. Page 9, and we will do this. Page 9, in the interests of safety. Don't leave your home. Don't turn on the TV. Don't open your mouth. Keep to the left. Know your limitations. Eat regular meals. Don't get angry with yourself. Don't trust one person too much. Don't believe any polite tactician. Always wear some protective clothing. Make notes as you go along. Remember how you got here. There we go. In the interest of safety. Notes to note about the poem. Polite tactician.
Kind of manipulation.
Polite tactician equals politician. There's lots of plays with words that nobody will understand. But polite tactician means politician here. There's little personal jokes about Slovakia. Always wear some protective clothing. It's like winter is cold, so it's just like always have a good jacket and a good pair of boots or shoes or things like that. It's man who lives alone forgets about these things. Right. Spends a lot of time with friends, goes out, drinks beer, forgets to eat. You suddenly realize after 2 days, haven't eaten anything. But it's all said with what we say, tongue in cheek. It's not serious, but in everything which is not serious, there is still something serious. That which is not funny is yet still funny sometimes. Somebody dies, it's not funny, but we can find humor. We can find some humor in it. So, there's a reference to Rudyard Kipling's If poem. Don't trust one person too much is a reference to Rudyard Kipling's If poem. So there's a lot of other things going on. Well, when you're in Britain, you keep to the left. When you're in Slovakia, you keep to the right.
Yes.
Yeah, well, this is the point. That's the whole point. The whole point is what works in one society doesn't work at all. It's the complete opposite in another society. So, as I said, there's a whole world of things happening within the poem. I mean, keep to the left is a reference to the difference between Britain and Slovakia. where in Britain, if you're on the right, it's dangerous, but in Slovakia, if you're on the left, it's dangerous. And what is it? It's just a rule. It's just a rule that somebody created. Both rules are good, but they're opposites. They're opposites as well, but they're both good. So there's a whole load of things happening
For example,
there.
always wear some protective clothing. You mean not to be naked?
Naked. It could be. It means take care of yourself. Be ready. Of even be practical about things. It does. It's what I said about winter. It's like winter is cold. You know, if you don't have thick socks and a good pair of boots and a heavy jacket, you have to. And depending upon what you do, depending upon where you are, depending upon what your job is, you might need to wear something different. So it's just observations about being safe. It's an instant thought about the idea of being safe. Um, okay, page 13. Page 13. Oh, there are so many differences between this book and the new book. I think in the new book it has a different title. Anyway, and if you want me, walking away, wanting to stay. The sea in my face, the lie in this place. Never so sure the words would endure. I was throwing a stone, just like breaking a bone. A thought, were you real if I couldn't feel distance in your touch, too close, not enough. Reduced next to me, pity, we're not free. To the next world I bring regret for nothing. So it's me letting go, dreaming January snow. Although it's summer right now, it's still white somehow. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this. There's a reference to Scotland, the sea in my face. My parents live next to the sea, and if you go down to the beach, and usually the weather is not good, you actually get the sea in your face because the wind blows the water up into the air and into your face. You actually get to see in your face. And of course it's a poem of contradictions. Walking away, wanting to stay. A thought, were you real if I couldn't feel? Too close, not enough. Next to me, not free. Endure, to last or live for a long period of time. Endurance. We often see the word endurance for a long period of time. Throwing a stone is also again related to the sea. You walk down to the beach, there's nothing to do except throw stones into the water, which is a pointless activity. Okay, page 31. Page 31. Scared to close my eyes. Simple things like wedding rings and solitude and thought of nothing. Walking home with sticks and stones, thinking by the telephone. Giving in and thoughts of sin because without, because within. Lying awake, I save for you childish daydreams, selfish but true. There's a million things in there. I don't even know where to start. It's about relationships. The first verse is obviously about marriage. The second verse is about being a child and about being young and being nervous and not being able to call a girl. thinking by the telephone, sitting thinking by the telephone, and not actually thinking about calling and not calling. um, Giving in or giving up, stopping doing things, thoughts of sin, negative ideas, because without, because within. It doesn't matter. The reason can be outside of you, the reason can be inside of you. It doesn't matter. You will tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself to do whatever it is you want to do. Um, I will try to find a positive poem to finish with. Yeah, it's a word game, isn't it?
I understand.
Embers are the last part of the fire which is light before it dies. That's the ember. It's the last little bit of fire that is alive before the fire dies. And it's just play with words. Rem embers. Okay, 64. This was a myth. This was a structural poem. Obviously, it was all about creating the.
Orders?
Yeah, yes, and it's all about the order of the poem as well. Um, After sunshine, rain. After anger, blame. After hours, days. After choices, ways. After mistakes, tears. After love, years. After thought, name. After caution, pain. After want, need. After harvest, seed. After God, science. After reason, defiance. After knowledge, cares. After youth, stares. After death, be. After you, me. Da, 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 da. Do, 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 do. Okay, 92. 92. Here's something which is not really that serious. It's not serious, but it is true. How to read a poem in English. Should be with a Scottish accent. Open your eyes, raise your hand, hold the page. Start at the top with the word on the left. Follow the text across and in your mind create images of what you find. So there is, I think, for me, each poem has a certain rhythm to it, but everybody sort of finds their own meaning, if they find any meaning at all. Which page? 90. Page 90. Nerves. Oh, that's an angry one. That's I'm angry with the world. That's why that's the title. Nerves. I'm just nerves. Politics. I would rather cut my arm. Love. I would rather live on a farm. Hate. I would rather wait and see. Philosophy. I would rather not believe. Change. I would rather walk away. Death. I would rather stay this way. Law. I would rather grow a beard. Control. I would rather learn to fear. Speech. I would rather hear no sound. Space. I would rather stand my ground. I'll do one more rhyme. One that rhyme. I like poems that rhyme. I have a book of songs as well somewhere, but that will probably that will take a long time for that to appear. So Lost Project. 96, Easy for You. This was originally a song, and you can tell by the rhythm. it's it's written tongue in cheek, like as I'm angry, but it's not written in an angry way.
What does it mean, tongue?
Tongue
Oh, no, yes, I know.
tongue in
but,
tongue in cheek means with humor,
mhm,
not too seriously.
mhm.
There might be truth, but it's we can smile about it. It means tongue in cheek. I'm I am. It's like when you say something which is serious, but you know that there's an element of humor to it as well. So it's so the poem the poem is obviously the writer is angry, but it's written with a smile. Let me tell you what I think. This must be easy for you. It's the same situation. Just find someone new. I'll tell you something for nothing, and you'll know that it's true. I put my hand on my heart. I don't know what to do. I know things should be easier than they really are, but the start is the end, and the end is the start. And heaven is no help with feelings inside, and God is as useless as those tears I cry. And I'm left with one feeling that burns me right through, and I'm left with one feeling that cuts me all new. And I'm left with one feeling that is deeper than blue. And I'm left with one feeling. This must be easy for you. Doesn't feel like tongue in cheek, but it is. Yes. I was angry. I was angry that day about somebody else doing something. But it's interesting how you can focus on the positive or focus on the negative in any relationship. You can choose. You can say, look at the good times we had, or look at the bad way it ended. And most people, psychologists have studied that most people in any relationship with anything, can be a person or a thing or a situation or a community, 90% of how they feel about it, most of how they feel about it, is connected with the emotion at the end of the experience. If your whole process is bad but the end is good, you tend to feel good about something. But if the whole process is good but the end is bad, you tend to feel bad about it. And neither are logical. Neither are logical. Because if the whole process is bad, then most of your experience is bad. But if the end is good, you feel good about it. And the other way, if the whole experience is great, but the end is bad, you just tend to focus on the end. And you tend to forget about the whole process. It's very interesting the way that we look at things. And we can choose. You can choose you want to focus on the good part or the bad part. Everybody has a choice to make. And as I was going through writing these, it's clear to me that I was very much focused on the negative aspects of things. I didn't know that at the time. I thought we all think we're objective at the time, naturally, because we're inside the box, not outside of the box. But when now that I look back on it, it's just like, I was focusing on the negative. That's not good.
You changed your thought. I think.
Experience. Experience and time. You know, time does things to people. There's a poem about that in here somewhere as well. Time does things to people. It gives you a different perspective. Yeah, you can be the unhappiest person in the world, and 2 years later, you won't even remember that you were the unhappiest person in the world at that point in time. So you can focus on what you want to focus on. Okay, last one, page 181. I talked about a poem that I wrote on a bus when I was in London. This is the poem that I wrote on the bus. The title of page 181. Yeah. 181, never on time. Of course, buses in London are never on time. Never. Never. It's just famous. They're famous for never, ever, ever being on time. And then I came to Slovakia, and the buses were like 1 minute early. What? Unbelievable. If you don't get to the station exactly on time, you miss the train. And in Britain, it's like no train ever arrives or leaves on time. You've always got an extra 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, but in Slovakia, it's different. So, right. So buses are never on time. So that's obviously. Oh, and the first line, poems on tickets. So the poem, it was written on a ticket. That's why, because I didn't have anything else to write on. This idea in my head. I was sitting on the bus. Mm. I should do this in a London accent, because it's London. London people talk like this, so I should do it with my London accent. London, never on time. Poems on tickets, scars on benches, spots on faces, numbers on cars, shoes on feet, leaves on trees, seats on trains, books on cooking, writing on walls. God, I've lost it. It's gone. It's gone. Cards on tables, people on platforms, houses on hills, triggers on drills, forests on fire, children on tracks, lives on paper, messages on boards, labels on clothes, tops on bottles, shine on me, death on Sunday. I think the idea is that there's a mix of what is happening as the bus is going down the road, the things that I'm seeing very quickly, image, 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 and the thoughts that I'm having about what happened during the day. So it's like the poem on ticket is where I am. Scars on benches, something I saw during the day. Spots on faces, somebody sitting next to me. Numbers on cars, something I see out the window. Shoes on feet, the person next to me. Leaves on trees, something I see out the window. Seats on trains, something that I experienced during the day. Books on cooking, some place that somebody was talking about a book, or maybe somebody had a book on cooking. Writing on walls, something I see out the window. Cards on tables. Something that's in my mind. People on platforms, people waiting for a bus or a train. Houses on hills, something I can see. Trigger on drill, something that happened. Forest on fire. I don't know. Maybe there was a story in the news about some forest fire or something. Um, Children on tracks. Just children playing on railway tracks. I don't quite know where that came from. Maybe I saw something out of the window of the bus. Lives on paper. Like yeah, exactly. Yeah. It can be something like that. Yeah, messages on boards, labels on clothes, tops on bottles, shine on me. And, Death on Sunday was obviously the poem was written on a Sunday. I'm not quite sure what the reference to death is in this poem. Yeah, when things are new, people often don't understand them completely. I arrived in Slovakia s- sort of at the end of the integration process. So I had a little window into the world that was when I arrived. You know, no, you can't use credit cards. uh, um, uh, still a lot of small shops with people standing in queues, in lines, waiting to buy things. Um, Still a lot of closed doors. Nobody really understood marketing or going out and you know providing good services for customers. A lot of people thought that everything should be automatic. Um, People still. struggling to find themselves in struggling to struggle to fight and have problems. They're struggling to find themselves in the world. And when you live and grow up in a culture, for a lot of people, there's one way of life that they know, and when that way of life changes, they get lost. They're lost a little bit, and they're not sure quite what to focus on. And, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, these were people thinking about the future. I had one student who told me he had one pair of trousers and one shirt. That was it. He didn't have another pair of trousers. Didn't have another shirt. And I only know this because he came to the building that I was teaching in was an old school, surprisingly, and somebody was painting the radiators, and he stood next to the radiator and he got some paint on his trousers, and he started crying. He was grown like I don't know, I was like 16, 17 years old. Gets paint on it. He started crying, and I said. Yeah, it's only trousers, right? You're not, you can, go home and change them or put on something else. I don't have anything else. This is all I have. I said, whoa. And then that made me focus a lot more on helping these people get where they need to go, um because that he was investing his life. He was putting his life in my hands, believing that I was going to help him get to the next level. So, and that really made me focus on helping the students. And I realized it wasn't just him. There were a lot of people who, because it was Spiskunova, had no other hope. They needed to get to university. Because if they didn't get to university, especially if they were a girl, what were they going to do in Spiskunova? Yeah, well, that's my focus from next year, not this year, because other things are happening. But next year, I really want to go into the positive aspect of things. I think that I think your attitude, your approach, looking at the positive is very important. Not to the point where you just imagine the world is beautiful and all roses and in smiles, but I think it's really important not to focus on the negative as the main thing in anything that happens. Acknowledge it, accept it, but don't focus on it, because that's what I did before, and I can see that in my old writing. And if I didn't have the writing, I wouldn't be able to observe it and judge it. And what I learned, if there's one lesson that I learned from that, it's food. That's okay. If there's one lesson that I have learned, it's control what you can control. Don't worry about anything else. So much happens that is beyond our control. It's pointless. There's no reason even to think about it.
Don't try to control everything. Yes.
Yeah, it's like I see people at the moment getting very agitated and heated and frustrated over the American election. Right? I got an opinion, but I've got an opinion, but control what you can control and don't worry about anything else. I can affect things that are close to me. I can't really affect things that are far away from me. So that's my focus. I can control this environment, so I do. I can't control our environment, so I don't. So yeah, it's practical self-reflection philosophy, which means that in any situation where I am with other people, I can only ever control what I do. I cannot control what they do. And as long as I can accept that, that's okay. I cannot be responsible for other people's other people's actions. I can give advice, I can suggest things. Yeah. Yeah.
Orders.
Yeah, and I can't expect anyone else to do what I suggest either. It's their choice. Um, so this it's me letting go, dreaming January snow. Though it's summer right now, it's still white. Somehow, it's the process of just letting go of these things that we can control. What we can control. What can I influence in my environment? What is important to me? What can I change, and what can't I change? And to change the things that you can change, and not worry about anything else. That's a very powerful personal development point for myself.